All right, boys, we're live. This is episode 33 of the Deconstruction Podcast, brought to you by Jobtable, the simplest way to grow and manage your construction company. Let's kick it off here, as always, with a review. This is from Mackenzie. He is a roofing company out of New Brunswick, Canada. After trying out several CRMs, I couldn't find anything I liked, let alone something viable to teach others to use. This has everything in one place and has surpassed my expectations. Not only that, I had a request for a feature, and that feature was added in a timely manner, just like it was promised. It's nice to have one place to handle all my daily office tasks and keep track on day-to-day operations. Would definitely recommend for others to use. Shout out to Mackenzie.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mackenzie.
It's what we strive to do, man.
For sure. How you guys doing?
We're good. I'm good. Summer's here. People are complaining about how hot it is now.
That's Canada. It's like all we talk
Yeah.
about is the weather.
Either it's too hot or too cold.
Every single season.
Never stop. The complaints never stop.
You know you're Canadian, eh? When you just talk about the weather.
I know. It's
First
true.
topic. But all
How are
right,
you?
let's kick it off here. We got some topics to go through. First thing I want to talk about is, I've been having a lot, and we all have recently, just speaking to a lot of new clients coming in using Jobtable or just inquiring about Jobtable, and just researching different software and like what to use, what to look for. And I thought that this is just an interesting topic to discuss and just maybe even help guide companies that are looking to use a software, change software, upgrade, whatever the case is, in terms of what to look for. And so what do I mean by that? More specifically, first thing I'll say, and I think you guys can attest to this. Obviously, we built Jobtable initially to help your business internally. Like it was never a plan to like launch it into the wild and get companies using it. Like we built it for you guys internally. But as we were going through that process with you guys, the first thing that really stood out was that no matter what, or if you're in the market for a software, you'll never find a software that will satisfy 100% of your demands or your process. Like it's literally impossible. There's always going to be a compromise. There's always going to be maybe something that you kind of wish was there that's missing. Unless you're building a fully custom software for yourself, that's the only way you'll get as close to 100% perfect. But even that, even if you build your own, like there's still going to be likely a bit of compromise to your process and what you want. So that's one thing that stands out to me is like if you're in the market for a software, you got to come to terms that you're not going to find something that 100% satisfies. So with that being said, what are the other factors that you got to look for when researching software? Johnny, what do you think?
Well, there's a few points that you want to look for. Number one is, everybody's different, but in my sense is simplicity, right? Yeah, I have to use something day in and day out. I have to give something to my guys. I'm looking for something that harmonizes, but something that is simple to use, but that packs power, right? And just like you said, nothing's going to meet your demands 100%. But just like anything else, even buying a car, buying a house, there's trade-offs. And what are those trade-offs? The trade-offs are, what's the learning curve? What am I able to do? What are my guys able to do? How much time does it save? Are we able to keep something all in one platform without using multiple platforms? And then, one of the big ones for a lot of people is just the time it saves you compared to the money you got to spend, right? So those factors are huge for me because at one point before we designed Jobtable, we were using like 6-7 softwares. And every time I always wondered, like, okay, if I'm using this software, why doesn't it have this included, right? Okay, I have timesheets off of this software, but why isn't timesheets tied in to this software where I'm doing job costing, right, on my accounting side, right? Where I've had to input stuff into multiple different software. So for me, I always look for number one, simplicity, right? Your life is busy enough. You don't need a software that's going to be overwhelming, hard to use, um, and something where you got to use multiple softwares to achieve one goal, you know? So I look before we even decided, like you said, to take this to market, I was looking for something that basically gave me at least 90% of what I needed. And what we found, at least for our company, was there was nothing on the market like that, right? So to me, it comes down to simplicity, the time it saves me, and the cost that it's going to cost my company every month, right? Those are the main factors for me.
I feel like that was our journey, right? Like exactly like you said, Costa. We went out looking for a software that would satisfy every single one of our needs. And like Johnny said, we were using multiple softwares at the time. We wanted something that would consolidate everything and just kind of save us money, save us time, and an all-in-one platform, because we can't expect our guys to log into multiple apps as it is, right? So in doing so in that search, we didn't find anything. We just kind of found that things were overpriced, very complicated to use, not user friendly, and there was no chance that our guys out on the field would even try to use them. So we kind of became those people that created a custom software to kind of cater to every single one of our needs. Now, what's cool about that is we thought we had the perfect software, and we packaged it up and we started selling it. But in doing so, we also we got the ability to tap into a market and a pool of trades that were not just plumbers, that were now electricians, carpenters, framers, landscapers, roofers, you name it. And it was a really cool learning experience for me personally, because where I thought we had this perfect software, we were now getting all kinds of feedback and recommendations from a bunch of intelligent tradesmen from all over the country, right? All over North America, from all different trades. So why Jobtable became such an important, software is, number one, we strived. Our main goal was striving to make it the most simple and affordable software out there. So like right off the bat, we always have that in mind. But then getting the feedback and these recommendations from other trades, I realized that we weren't perfect. We had a lot of faults in our own company, in our mindset of how we designed the software originally, because we thought no, this is the way it has to be done. This is the way we do it. But then I realized there's some of those things were the right way to do them, but then some of them were not. There were much more efficient and better ways to do those things. And these are ideas that came from an electrician or a roofer, whatever. So for me, it's like this journey has been so important, because it's made me realize like the importance of efficiency, right? Just getting your time back. At the end of the day, it's like we're convinced that we're doing things right. We're in the grind. Like, no, I'm running my company the way it needs to be ran. Nobody can do it. But the reality is, there's so much time that's wasted that could be spent working on different projects, starting new ventures, spending time with your wife, with your family, whatever it may be. And I feel it's just like this constant like chisel that we have in our hands, and we're just chipping away at this block and just trying to refine it to be the most perfect software, right? And like you said, the perfect software doesn't exist out there. That's the reality, right? Because one man's garbage will be another man's treasure, and that will always be the case. But I think here at Jobtable, we strive to get it as close to the most perfect product that we can.
Yeah, and one thing I'll add too, is with our users, at least, like Charlie said, when we initially launched this, we thought it was bulletproof, right? Like we thought we had everything figured out. But once other trades from all over North America started to use it, and we started to get that feedback, one thing I noticed very quickly is that our users are our silent business partners, essentially, right? They gave us great feedback to a point that we never thought people actually use it in that way, right? Costa, we talk about this all the time. When we get recommendations, it's like, oh man, like people are using it like this. It wasn't designed to be used like that, but that makes a lot of sense too, right? So that's why I say to us, I don't look at our users as clients. I look at them as our business partners. And what do we always tell them? Anything that you see will better the software, let us know so that we can continuously evolve, right? And I think that we are an industry, whether you're in, Florida, whether you're in New York, whether you're in Toronto, whether you're in British Columbia, it doesn't matter. Um, we're we're in an industry together, and the only way to better it is for us to collaborate and to introduce new products constantly, or new effective ways to run your business. And the only way to do that is to take that feedback and try to implement it into our software in the most simplest way, right? So a lot of times we'll get somebody that will give us some recommendation. How many times, guys, do we go to the drawing board and say, okay, we need to do this, but how do we do this with that job table twist where it's done simply, right? It's going to do the math for you. It's going to pick up, this from this job. It's going to notify, the person you tagged. So I think it's an ever evolving thing. And like we said at the beginning, no software is perfect, but the one thing I'll tell you is that we value our users' feedback in order to help make their lives simpler, right? There's just no better way to put it. We're a community, and the only way for the community to continue to grow and thrive is for us to listen to each other and try to help each other out.
Yeah, all good points. I agree with all that. For me, one of the most important things to look for in a when looking at software, or really any service for that matter, is the experience working with that company, right? Because at the end of the day, like you said, John, we look at our clients as silent business partners. Because at the end of the day, if you're a company that's you trusting and utilizing a software to literally run your business in day to day, every single day, like that's how you run your business, there has to be like a level of trust and good experience there, right? In the first red flag to me is if a software or a company says it's like, yeah, we don't have any issues and there's no downtime, like that's a huge red flag. Because let's face it, there are issues in any software. You go down the list, like AWS, biggest server infrastructure in the world, like they go down, right? It happens. Gmail not too long ago had outages. So when there are outages and issues, it really matters how that company deals with that. Like, do you have like personal relationships with that company, or when you call them, are you going to like a call center in another country, right? When there are issues, how fast are they being dealt with?
That's a great point.
So to me, it's the overall experience. To me, that is uh, arguably more important than the actual like features and functionality itself. It is just the overall experience, the customer service. When there's issues, how fast do people respond back to you? How fast do those issues get resolved?
That's a great point, Costa.
That's
That's a great
very
point,
key.
because one of the things I always say is a relationship, uh, or in this case, customer service. Uh, when everything is good, everybody's friends. But where you solidify what customer service is, how people actually, are measured in my eyes, is when things go bad, right? And that's gonna
Exactly.
determine what that customer service is like. Like in plumbing, I tell all my clients all the time, we're not perfect. We're human. There's human error, right? We will make mistakes. Unfortunately, everybody makes mistakes, but it's all on how you rectify those mistakes, right? So
Yeah.
many times I'll give you a prime example, right? Even before Jobtable, on our accounting software, right? I don't want to name the name, but obviously it's the biggest one everybody uses. Um, you know, they were down for 3.5 hours. I had two of my girls in the front, on the phone with them for 3.5 hours, just trying to log in, right? But you know what? You can say whatever you want. Sure, there was downtime. Sure, it was annoying, but those people were on the phone trying to help us, right? So are you going to look at it like this is an interruption? 100% it is. but it's software, right? Like you said, AWS, the biggest server in the world. You know what I mean? Biggest infrastructure, like in terms of servers in the world. They go down, but it's all on how they rectify the problem, right? Because it's very easy to look at somebody and say, hey, this is interrupting our business. That's fine. But what happens when you're the one to interrupt somebody else's business, right? So let's say, for example, it's it's a roofer, right? Going after a software company and saying, "Oh, you interrupted me. You did this. You did that." Okay, what about when you interrupt somebody's schedule on a job, but you have reason for it, right? You want that customer to be understanding as well, right? So I always say we're a community. As long as you're at the forefront, you're showing people that you're there to help, that you're there to deal with the issue, that's the best you're going to get. It doesn't matter what sector you're in. It doesn't matter if it's financial, construction, software, right? It's all on how you deal with the problem. You know what I mean?
And to that point, Johnny, too, I think, your reaction to a problem can really solidify a relationship, right? So it's like it doesn't just go with software, it goes with any construction business. So we've had issues in the past, obviously on jobs where, one of our guys may have made a mistake, and rather, they obviously the aggression is going to come hard and fast from the general contractor or whoever's in charge. But you take the time, you stop and say, listen, I apologize, we're going to get it fixed up right away. You attack the problem, you send as many guys as you can, you fix it, and then in the end what ends up happening is you impress the general contractor and they say, wow, you know what, humans make mistake, it's a regular thing, but I can't believe you guys got it done and fixed so quickly, and I really appreciate it, right? And at the end of the day, your relationship is only going to grow with that
Yeah.
person. So
And I feel like even with Jobtable, right? I think some of our best relationships, most loyal clients we have are ones that there were issues, and like how we handled that fix, or how we took care of that person, and that a negative situation is what oftentimes helps build positive relationships,
1,000%.
right?
Sometimes you got to butt
absolutely.
heads. Sometimes somebody's got to yell at you.
Yeah.
And then the way you fix a situation makes people realize where it's like, man, you know, I was coming down hard on these guys, but they jumped on it, right? That look, when something goes bad, if you're jumping on it, sure, you can dwell on what goes bad, but if you're showing them that you're at my utmost priority now, I'm dropping everything to deal with your problem, can you really be mad at them in the end of the day? Like they did everything that they could, right? So I always say,
Yeah, for sure.
you can look at us, you can look at any software company, you can look at any construction company, anybody listening, everybody's made a mistake, man. There's human error. It's all on how you deal with that, right? It's all on how you rectify that. That's going to solidify who you are as a company, as a person. I always say one of the things that's lacking in today's society is just being a person of your word, right? And being at the forefront and not hiding behind anything, right? We're here to deal with everything, whether it's in our construction company or whether it's in our software company. We're here to, if there are any problems, to be at the forefront, stand face to face with our clients and just say, look, we got it. You know, I'm sorry that this happened. We got it, and we're exhausting all of our resources. And please ensure that you are at the highest priority.
Yeah. Yeah. So like at the end, like, just to kind of wrap up this kind of segment here, is obviously very subjective in terms of like what you look for, what your needs are at any given time. For me personally, though, it's the number one is probably just overall like experience dealing with a company, like how accessible people are, if there's issues, how they deal with them, and just that part. Because I think, again, especially for something like this, where you're relying on a software to run your business, there has to be that level of trust and accessibility and customer support. So to me, that's a huge one. And soft plug for Jobtable, like that's something I'm most proud of with Jobtable. Like we say this all the time. There's nothing more important than customer service for us, customer support. Like how fast we respond to people, how quick we rectify any issues if there are any. And so, yeah, that's something to definitely be mindful of if you are in the market for a software.
Simplicity, affordability, and like you said, support are three big factors.
Yeah. All right. Next topic here, I wanted to discuss. We kind of touched on it last episode, but I think this is an interesting one. So there's this growing idea that blue collar trades are becoming the new white collar, right? And I think there's a lot of truth to that. Like we're watching before our eyes, like AI and automation basically shake up entire white collar industries, right? Everything from legal lawyers, legal research, accounting, even software engineers, like health professionals. A lot of these roles in professions are really facing major disruption, right? These are all roles that were and still are, white collar, like very kind of exclusive. Had to go through the schooling, so like very difficult to get in, to be a lawyer, to be a doctor, to be a software engineer. It takes a lot of hard work. And now, like literally overnight, it seems like a lot of these AI platforms and algorithms, like they're literally, you can draft a contract in seconds. You can analyze financials. You can diagnose health issues. Go down the list, right? And write code for like next to nothing. So so while a lot of these white collar professions, they're being automated away, uh, blue collar trades, like they're holding strong right now, and in many ways they're actually rising. And why is that, right? You can't replace like a skilled plumber, an electrician, like a carpenter with a robot or software, right? You still need that hands-on, real world experience and problem solving. And so I think these skills, these blue collar skills, they're just becoming more and more rare, and that scarcity is just going to drive their value even higher. And beyond that, I think there's also like a cultural shift happening as well, where you're seeing like trades, they're no longer looked at as like this fallback career option where like if something doesn't work out, you become a tradesman, right? But like instead, like no, like now if you're in the trades, like it's not a fallback. Like you're seen as smart, respected, like a secure career path. You're making good money, and so I think this next generation is really waking up to that, and I think we might see like a shift between like what is considered white collar. So, with that said, Charlie, what's your
Yeah,
thoughts here?
trades have definitely become like an option A, right? And rightfully so. And I think that's reflected a lot too by salaries. Like, for example, like we have guys that make a lot of money per hour and they'll go out on a weekend and they'll make $2,500, $3,000 cash, right? In maybe 10 hours, right? On a Saturday and Sunday. So you look at that, and you look at someone that's gonna, we like you said, we touched on university, college, and the amount of money that goes into it and the time that goes into it, and you start to weigh out your options, and that path, the white collar path, starts to make less and less sense, right? Um, I personally think we're seeing an influx in kids coming into trades. Johnny, I don't know if you agree, but I mean the amount of resumes that I get on my desk on a pretty regular basis now is a lot more than we used to, right? Um, Again, I have my opinions on the schools, like these pre-apprenticeship classes that they're attending. I think it's a big waste of money for them. But it's also because these have popped up because there's a market for it, because now there's so much competition, right? As where people weren't walking through the doors as often in the past. So it's like now, let's say I have, 50 people walking through the door, they're trying to stand out, right? They're trying to be the one that gets chosen. So now all these pre-apprenticeship classes have propped up, and there's a business that's kind of forming because of it. So I think it's a very positive thing. I'm proud as a tradesman that it's not looked down upon like it used to be. Not that I really cared, because I've always really focused on my craft and I didn't really care what people thought. But at the end of the day, I know the way tradesmen are looked at, right, in comparison to a white collar, let's say like a lawyer or financial advisors, whatever it may be. So I think it's a step in the right direction. And like you said, Costa, it's happening very quickly. It's happening overnight. And sooner than later, all these spots are going to get filled, and these kids are going to wish they got into the trades, and they're going to be left holding the bag, and with not too many places to turn, right? But also, with that being said, I think people evolve, right? So I think, with AI and everything, might take over some portions of a profession. Other opportunities will present themselves, right? Like other doors will open up, right? Um, so I think all in all, very positive for the trades. If you're someone young listening to this and you're not sure, this is why the apprenticeship program is so important as well, because you can try it out. You can actually get your hands dirty and put your boots on and strap on your tools and see very quickly if it's something that you want to get into or not get into, right?
And just to touch on that as well, I am seeing an influx, but I'm also seeing um, that basically a lot of people, they got into the trades initially, just like every career, just for the money, right? Where when you get into the trades, it's like when we hire guys, like I tell them, like if you want a job, you've come to the wrong place. If you want a career, you've come to the right place. Because like let's face it, anybody listening, and you can ask your parents, you can ask your grandparents, uncles, aunts, everybody's always looking for a reliable plumber, electrician, HVAC guy, roofer, somebody who responds, somebody who knows what they're doing, somebody who, no matter what the issue is, like skill, like you cannot take skill away from your hands. Like when you work with your hands, nobody can take that away from you. You see what I mean? Like there's no software that's going to be able to replace that. You know what I mean? There's no program that's going to be able to replace that, right? So get us moving from, let's call it blue collar to white collar. I think we're moving in the right direction, because when I got into the trades, listen, man, we were looked down on. Like that's the reality, unfortunately. When we went to go work in a lawyer's office, in a doctor's office, when we worked in the hospitals, right? You can see the way the ladder worked. Where now, when you have a crew of, let's just say, plumbers coming to fix something, like you can see the almost like the excitement, right? Like in their eyes, where it's like, oh my God, finally they're here. It's almost like the saviors, right? Because not a lot of people want to do this anymore. So if you're able to get into it, where you're able to learn that skill with your hands, right? It, like the sky's the limit. Like Charlie said, guys work for us, and then on the weekend they go do side work, right? Like we got second-year apprentices that it's like, yeah, I went to my friend's uncle's rental places and I replaced a couple of toilets and I made you know $600 cash, on the weekend. You know what I mean? It's like,
And just to add to that, John, just to add to that quickly, the beauty about the trades is that I look at any career that whatever you choose to do in life, there should never be a cap. Like you should never reach a point where, okay, this is all I'm gonna do. So if like I drive a forklift in a warehouse, after 20 years, I'm still gonna be driving that forklift in a warehouse, and there's no room for advancement, right? So the beautiful thing about trades is the sky is truly the limit, right? Like you go in, you do your apprenticeship. After 5 years, you get your red seal, whether you're electrician, plumber, whatever. And then, if you're content with what you're doing, and that then you could potentially become a foreman in the company and grow. You could become a supervisor. But then beyond that, you could take that and no one's stopping you from opening up your own company now, right? So now you can just kind of dive into entrepreneurship. You have free range to do whatever you want,
yeah.
right? Which is to me is the most beautiful thing, and that goes for anybody listening. It's not just with the trades. Anything you do in life, as a rule of thumb, you should never stop growing and learning as a person, just as a human and in your
Yeah, and
profession.
and look, I got a
Yeah.
great story on this, right? So, somebody that Charlie knows as well, a friend of mine, he does high-rise forming, right? It's a fucking bitch of a job, right? Especially here in Canada, because you're dealing with the weather. They wake up, they're on site at 5 6 a.m. It's dark outside. They're flying forms, 30, 40, 50, 60 stories in the air, freezing cold, minus 30, minus 40 up there. Like it's a tough job. But for some reason, the guy, liked what he did, and he became one of the best, I think, in the city at doing that. He became a foreman at a big company, and he wanted to leave the company, and the company didn't want him to leave. Long story short, the guy's making, over $300,000 a year, right? Has a truck, has a phone, insurance paid, gas paid, vacations paid, bonuses at the end of the year, right? And you think about it, this is a guy that, didn't even finish high school, right? He just excelled in something that he did, and he's become to a point that in the company, and this is a massive company, that he's irreplaceable. If he were to leave that company, right, it would be a big blow, right? So again, when people think that it's just lawyers or doctors, you know what I mean, that get that kind of treatment, it's not, right? If you excel at what you do as a tradesman, I'm telling you, man, sky's the limit. Truly it is.
For sure. And like, and to add to that too, it's like trades, they're not ignoring technology either. Like, unlike a lot of these other white collar professions where you can actually see a major disruptions are happening, with contractors and trades, like this technology is not replacing them by any means. It's actually it's empowering them. So, they're using software to like simplify their business more and more, like AI to work smarter, on the scheduling, quoting, inventory, all this, right? So not only is their skill scarce, but now they're able to be a lot more productive and efficient with the use of technology, which just like supercharges them even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's honestly, there's I don't think any better time in history to get into the
Look,
trades.
for any
Yeah,
tradesmen
absolutely.
listening here,
Limitless.
man, you know, we are, some of the most important people, or one of the most important sectors in the world. Doesn't matter what country you're from, you know what I mean, or what country you live in, essentially, right? If you don't have the people to build the infrastructure, the know-how, the skill to work with their hands to build these bridges, roads, highways, high-rise buildings, hospitals, um, we have nothing, right? As a society, like in general, right? So for anybody listening to this podcast and they're on the fence about what they want to do with their lives, especially like the younger crowd, guys, like the trades, they don't look at it like a bad thing, man. It's truly one of the most empowering things you can do for yourself.
And I always like to like show like numbers and stats
Ross
of
is
this
the
stuff
data
too.
guy.
Like, so I just
He's the
found
data
this.
guy.
So no, so check this out, right? So this is from the New York Post. A growing number of Gen Zers plan to pursue traditional blue collar jobs in trades like welding, plumbing, and electrical work as young adults lose faith in the value of a college degree. According to a new study, about 23% of Americans who are not currently working in the trade field say they plan to move into blue collar work, but the percentage rises to 50% for members of Gen Z, those born between 1997 and 2012. The survey of 2,091 people aged 18 and over found that Gen Z was becoming the tool belt generation because of the shifting attitudes and soaring costs of a college education. About 77% of respondents said it's outdated to assume that a college degree is necessary for a successful career, and only half said college is worth the investment.
I love that. That's great. That's such a good percentage. That's like right in line with what we were talking about last time. And this is not even mentioning AI. This is not even taking AI into consideration, right?
No,
So
no.
yeah, no, this is
Yeah, no, that's. I think it just AI just like kind of contributing to that because it's exposing these other professions where like the value is not as what it once was to
yeah,
be.
and I think a lot of people don't realize how much tradesmen are making nowadays,
I always
right?
say
Yeah,
anything,
yeah.
any skill you can possess that you can work with your hands, like nobody can take it away from you, right? And I'm not saying somebody can take your degree or anything like that, but I'm just saying whether you're in this country, whether you go to another country, whether you go halfway across the world, you will always be needed and required. You know what I mean? So this is one of those, I always say it's a lifelong skill that nobody can take away from you, and you can just continuously evolve and try to be the best at what you do, right? And
And what I was going to say too, like that article that you had up, Costa, is why I feel that that's just a reflection on colleges and just them being exposed. I don't even think it has anything to do with AI in that with that particular article. I think it's just people are realizing, right? I'm going to spend $100,000, indebt myself, and then come out of there and I can't even find a job. And if I do, I'm going to make $50,000 a year, and it's going to take me 10, 12 years to get out of that debt, right? House prices are through the roof. Interest rates are out of hand. It's not a viable option anymore. Nobody wants to do it. And then you add in the AI, and then if you get into a white collar job, they're diminishing. It's just
Yeah,
trades
I think the
seems to
cat's
be the
out
way
of
to
the bag
go.
with these schools and universities and all that. It's I don't think that's like a viable path anymore to like go to school, go to college, university, get a job. Like it doesn't make sense in this time, this era we're living in.
It really doesn't. And if you think about it, do I want to spend $100,000, right? Or at, 18, 19 years old? Or do I want to start making money right away at 18, 19 years old and learn a skill immediately? Like imagine starting an electrical apprenticeship at the age of 18, and at 23 years old, you're making 60 bucks an hour and you have an electrical license in your country, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's a no-brainer.
For me, even like way before AI, right? And we've all been entrepreneurs our entire lives. I remember like, with my first company, over 10 years ago, when I'm hiring people, I never once even asked or cared if anyone went to school, what degree they have. You know, it was totally irrelevant to me. And obviously, this is very like a narrow, like for this type of business software. But for any role I've ever hired for, I've hired hundreds of people. I've never once um, checked, like cared about education. Like it was just a
I hire
totally
the person. I hire the
non-relevant
person.
thing.
That's it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You just hire the
I look
person and
at
the
Yeah,
them.
and
skills
I
they
look at
have.
them. I
yeah,
look at them. I
Yeah.
look at the way they come across, right? What their passion is, if they're willing to learn, right? And it's the same with even our employees at Jobtable. When they come with like this resume, oh, I worked here. I don't care. Let me have a conversation with you. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Let me
Yeah.
let
It's funny, just like reflecting back on that,
yeah.
it was always like kind of odd to me because I went to university and you figure like, someone like an employer, they look for that, but like being in the seat of the employer and like never having no care if someone went to school or not, there was always that thought like, what is the value of school? But now again, I just feel it's getting exposed now more than ever with just the availability of information, AI, different ways you can learn, skills you can acquire without school. And yeah, honestly, I think the cat is out of the bag. These schools, unless they change the way they operate or whatever, I think they're going to have a very hard time
Another thing,
justifying their value.
another thing you can't overlook too, right? When you talk to a lot of people, like young adolescents that are that are getting ready to go to college, university, right? They're obviously being asked to choose their career path at a very young age, right? So they think I need to go there to get an education, to get a good job. But another factor is, oh, I want to just go and have the experience of being in college, right? Which technically translates to I want to go party for 3 years, right? And if you look at like what you can't overlook is the life experience that you get going into an apprenticeship at a young age, right? Like now imagine instead of going to college, university, you're starting to earn money and you're out on a real life scenario. Like you're on a big job site, you're working with real men that have been at this for decades, right? So it's like you're in this environment of wolves essentially, right? Of like what a real reflection of what your future is going to be like and what the real world is like at a very young age. So now not only you're earning money, but you're getting this like crucial life experience and a glimpse into a decade from now of what it's all about getting a paycheck, having taxes come off your paycheck, knowing how to invest that money, right? Save that money. Are you going to, then you can start buying, we know guys that are 3 years into their apprenticeship and they're already buying houses, right? But yet, you want to go to university so you can experience life. It's not real life that you're experiencing. You're just, you're going to go there and party when you can still party when you're earning $1,000 a week and you're 19 years old,
Check this out. I just chat GPT this, like the debt of like a doctor compared to like a plumber. So total lifetime debt in the U.S. of a doctor could exceed 500,000, like over a 20-year horizon. Plumber, um, mortgage, truck, 100 to 250,000. So doctors generally carry 2 to 5 times more long-term debt than plumbers. Plumbers tend to finish schooling with little to no debt, giving them a faster financial start.
Yeah.
Even from this perspective, right? It's like, just that burden of like hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt they just have to carry with you forever.
And look, just to push back on that a little bit, obviously the argument's going to be that, yeah, but the doctor is going to make a lot more money and they can pay off that debt a lot faster than the plumber can, right? And then that's where I'll say, like, yeah, the doctor will make a lot of money, absolutely. And eventually, if they have their own practice, they're going to get out of debt and they're going to start earning a bunch of money. But with that being said, you can't take away from the plumber or the electrician that they're able to not only make as much money as a doctor, they can make even more money than a doctor can, especially if they're opening up their own companies, right? So there's a few ways to look at this. If you're not ever planning on starting a company, right, going into the trades is a great path. Where again, like that article you just showed, will keep your debts low and your earnings will be high, right? And again, the life experience at a young age will come into play. But again, if you end up opening up your own company, then sky's the limit.
Yeah, that was a good one. What else, guys? Anything else that we didn't touch on?
You know what? No, just I don't know if anybody listening out there, if you guys are busy or not. Just I don't know, not really a topic, but just just to shoot the shit a little bit with you guys. We know we've gotten we've always been busy over 15 years, and we've it's very rare that we've had slow times. Last year was exceptional. Was it last year, January, Johnny, when it kind of started the lull? But yeah, since then we've gotten really busy, and it's just it's a grind, but it's one that I love, and I think it's just very important to just stay focused. We have a big job that's wrapping up. We have a huge one that's starting in a few months, and we were kind of worried there's going to be some downtime in the middle, but we just keep banging on doors, creating new relationships, and we just were awarded a few jobs that are going to fill that gap. So to anybody out there listening, man, just keep pounding the pavement no matter what, man. Whenever you think you're busy, just remember those jobs are going to come and go, and then you're not going to be busy. So just keep at it, man. Just grow. Don't be afraid to grow, right? It's great if I'm a roofer and I have work for the next 2 weeks, right? And then after that, I'm going to go quote more, and hopefully I'll get more jobs. Hire guys to do the 2 weeks worth of work, and you go out there and you get more work, right? And then you do the next one, and then hire another 2 guys. Don't be afraid of that growth, and don't be afraid to be hungry, and just get out there.
Good point.
And honestly, like just to add to that, like Johnny, Charlie, shout out to you guys for what you started from. 2 guys in a truck. Over 15 years later, employed close to 40 team members, and just like doing this week in, week out on this pod, and just sharing like your real boots on the ground experiences and insights. I don't think you guys realize and others realize like how valuable this is. That is just sitting on the internet for people's disposal. We're talking about education. Like this is it right here for a lot of people. So shout out to you guys for.
You know what? As much as those are very kind words, and thank you for saying that. But as much as I hear you say that, And as much as I appreciate it, I truly feel like we've accomplished nothing, if that makes sense. Like I think there's so many levels to this game that, when you're at the bottom, you're starting out, you have this idea in your head of what, making money is. And when you start to make a little bit of money and you start to kind of rub elbows with people that have been in the game much longer than you and they're more experienced, you start to kind of realize like, wow, I really haven't achieved anything. So now your goalpost kind of, it gets moved back, right?
Yeah.
And then you reach, and that goes back to my original point that you never want to be stagnant in life. You never want to be in a career path where you've kind of plateaued and you're no longer advancing, right? If you're not moving, you're dying, right? That's the way I look at it. And now in a time that we live where you have access to every piece of information that you want to learn how to fish, you can learn how to fish. You want to learn how to knit or crochet, you can do that, right? You want to learn how to tie a tie, you can do that. We have access to everything and we're so fortunate for that. So, to have the mindset where I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna stay stagnant. I'm just gonna work my 9 to 5, punch in, punch out, 65, I'm gonna retire and sit on my ass. I can't accept that.
That just makes what I was trying to say like just even stronger, right? And I'm with you. Like I feel like we haven't done anything, but like that's the beauty of this. Like the topics we're discussing are things that we're going through like right now, like how we're trying to like keep elevating. And these are real like life.
Hold on, just Johnny, 1 sec. Costa, I know you understand what I said, and for anybody listening, when I say that we haven't achieved anything, when I say something, I know it comes off as a very negative thing, but it's the opposite. When I say that, it's actually like the most positive thing because it's something that keeps my drive alive. It keeps me hungry and it keeps me going. So when I say that, it's like it's the most beautiful thing in the world because it's like a hunger that can never be satisfied. So it just keeps you motivated to just keep going.
Yeah, it's the mentality, just the mindset, 100%.
Sorry, John,
No,
I didn't mean to cut you off there.
You took the words out of my mouth. Like
that's a first. Usually it's Johnny cutting us off.
No, I was just gonna say, listen, this stuff lives on the internet. We put out, literally everything that we can to try to empower anybody listening, anybody struggling in their business, anybody looking on how to evolve. This is exactly why we do it, man. We take time out of our week every week to do this. So I hope everybody appreciates it. I hope more people tune in. And I hope people find value to this because that's what we're trying to do, man. We're trying to give you guys real life experiences, what we've encountered, the people that we talk to, the hurdles that we face, how to overcome it. And we're putting it out there for everybody to listen, right? So truly, I feel like, getting back to like college, 45 minutes once every week just to listen to us an hour. I hope it empowers you guys. Again, like always, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know if anybody has, any questions. They want some guidance. Please feel free to reach out. Like this is what we do this for, guys. Like we really do this. Like I said earlier when we were talking about another topic, it's like we're a community, man, and we got to keep helping each other. We got to keep elevating each other, right? So I hope everybody finds value to this.
Yeah. We truly are in this together, and a big reason why we do this is because when we started our business, we didn't have this luxury. We didn't have anybody we can go to and listen to for advice and pick their brains. So me and Johnny were just kind of left in the trenches, figuring everything out on our own, which is, look, there is value to that. It gives you character and it hardens you and it prepares you for the real world. But I feel that also there's a lot of time that was wasted in that process where we could have benefited greatly from having some mentors and some people to give us advice along the way. So if we do end up helping some people, then it was worth it for us.
100%. All right, boys, good episode. Until next time. And yeah, if anyone's gotten this far, subscribe, leave a comment, share this podcast wherever you listen to it, YouTube, Spotify, Apple. If you're a contractor looking for software to streamline your business, check out jobtable.com, sign up for a 14-day free trial. And you might be surprised at how much time and efficiency it'll bring to your life. So, all right, guys, Pleasure as always.
See you
We'll
next
talk
week,
soon.
boys. Take care.
Ciao, ciao, boys.
Bye.